Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Wolverine Live. Great to have you with us once again. I'm John Borton, and with us, as always, one Mr. Tom Crawford. He of Press Pass fame on Fox. You can see him on Sunday nights and catch up with all the latest back and forth between he and Jack Ebling and guys like Rico Beard and all kinds of fun there. And obviously, Tom has his own. I would say probably most of the folks that are on this have probably checked it out by now. But if you haven't, check out the Crawford Podcasting Network. He comes up with some unique and interesting items. Tom, great to have you with us.
Oh, it's great to be here, JP. Getting closer. Yeah, and we're a week away, a week from today, or a week from tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Big Ten Media Days kicks off. The new commissioner at 10:30 down there at Lucas Oil, and kid in the candy store. I always describe myself Big Ten Media Days. I'm a college football, Big Ten football nerd. I want to talk to everybody. I want to get as much content as I can, and I really look forward to this event a lot, JB.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about this, but it's kind of that time where, hey, wait a minute, there's a football season coming. There's some left of summer, but it's going to go like that. Now, we know we're going to talk a whole lot about Big Ten Media Days next week and the week after that, but we're going to give a little taste of it today because, that's a lot of minds are on that. You've already heard who's going to be there from the various schools, and that gets you thinking about things. We know that Blake Corum and Chris Jenkins and Mike Sainristil are going to represent Michigan at the Media Days. I've got my own thoughts about that, but I want to hear yours first. Tom Crawford, these three guys, why are they there? And how do you think, what are you interested in hearing from them?
Well, I mean, you're three stellar guys, three, quality kids. I mean, use all the cliches you want. They're all appropriate. And, with Blake, I mean, him coming back, I mean, my God, that's just unbelievable. Rebounding from the injury, and then his coach telling him he needs to leave, and he's still coming back, and the leadership qualities of him. Obviously, Chris Jenkins, we've talked about him quite a bit. I'm a huge Jenkins fan. I just think he got that NFL DNA that you can tell that's just how he's bred. He's a fun guy. You can tell he's a team guy. And then Mikey Sainristil. I mean, I keep telling that story about he had the janitor at the football building close the players lounge because it wasn't being kept up enough, and had it locked down for a week or so, whatever the amount of days it was. And that's a sign of leadership. But you know what? I mean, these three guys, quality. I mean, obviously legitimate, and I can see why they're there. But my God, I go through that roster just like we talked about, JB, with who are the captains going to be. And this doesn't necessarily mean whoever the reps are at Big Ten Media Days is not equated into captains. I mean, these three could be, and there could be a couple more added to them. I think it's going to be a 5-person coaching or a captaincy this year. But I mean, you could have 8 to 10 to 12 other more representatives that would be literally equally worthy as these three. And that's the makeup of this team. That's why I'm so excited about this team. It's got depth in not only talent, but character kids.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And here's one observation I'll throw at you. Sometimes in these Big Ten meetings, I have had the sense in the past that Michigan coaches would send those least likely to say anything controversial. And that might equate to least likely to say anything terribly interesting.
Yes.
Absolutely not the case with these guys.
No, Chris Jenkins, I mean, come on. I mean,
I talked to 2 of the 3 of them for the football preview, and they are just intriguing guys and fascinating guys and fired up guys who will be very gut honest with you. Blake Corum, I mean, we've all talked to him. We've heard from him. We know what he's like. not all that long ago, he basically said that the 2023 season is going to be a disappointment if Michigan doesn't win the national championship.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how far this program has come, and that's how much Blake Corum is willing to put things out there in making that kind of statement. I'm sure people want to follow up with him, but he doesn't back down from anything. He doesn't back down from an opponent, and he doesn't back down from a microphone in terms of, okay, I'm going to tell you how it is. And but the kid is just a young man, is someone we've seen grow so much over the last couple of years. Chris Jenkins has the motor that just will not quit. I mean, the stories about him when he was growing up, make sure you check them out in the Wolverine football preview, because they give you an idea where he's coming from and how he has always been. Guy walks into the room and that team gets fired up because they know how fired up he is. And he is going to be a real leader on this team. And I would expect, you said that doesn't necessarily equate to being captains, but I would be surprised if these three weren't. Mike Sainristil still. I've talked about him more than once. Just the maturity and the leadership. Here's what I want to see from Mike Sainristil still. We know that Cade Stover from Ohio State is going to be there as well. So I'm wondering if we can get a picture of Mike Sainristil still tipping the microphone away from Cade Stover as he's ready to talk.
That's why they have Michigan and Ohio State on separate days, just for that reason that you said.
Yeah, but I mean, you could get there early, or you could.
Yeah, I know.
Why not? There, everybody remembers the player. Yeah. Cade Stover with that sure touchdown in his hands, and Mike Sainristil still tipping that ball away. One of the iconic plays in recent Michigan-Ohio State history, and just was absolutely huge. Helped in the downfall of that was still a game at that time, and then you saw Donovan Edwards apply the coup de grace and put that game away. He and Michigan's offensive line. So, I think that they made very wise choices in who they sent, and it's not going to be a deal where you're not getting any quotes out of these guys. They are confident. They know what they're talking about, and they're willing to really put it out there.
I want to bounce or dovetail off what you were talking about is Harbaugh going to be concerned about getting guys that won't say, bulletin board material and everything. Because that's what happened. Remember when Taylor Lewan went to McCormick? Remember McCormick Place on Brady's, 2013 or whatever it was, 2012, 2013. Taylor Lewan was one of the Michigan representatives. I mean, and that was just that was a powder keg going on right there. I mean, as far as quotes, I mean, that's just there's no filter in Taylor Lewan, but and then it kind of got a little tight, after that. And then when Jim, in the 2021, I call that the turning point media days, when all of a sudden bravado from Aiden Hutchinson, I think Son Haskins there at that time too. I mean, it was just different. I mean, these guys are confident. They were calling out their rivals as important games. So it changed in 2021, where I don't think that's a concern anymore, John. I think there's a lot of I mean, like I say, anything stupid or anything, but I think they feel more confident in these kids, and that that they're gonna, whatever they say, it's gonna be stuff that they can back up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And they've pre-backed up a lot because of what they've accomplished the last couple of years.
Right.
It is not bravado. They have proven what they can do. They want to take the next step. They're motivated to do that. And so, I really think that they will handle themselves well. And yet what you'll get will be very interesting and insightful interviews, in my opinion. So is this the start of things for you? Is this the start of the Big Ten football meetings kind of signal the start of the football season for Tom Crawford?
Well, it is one of those milestone things. I mean, because you are for 2 days. I mean, you're just shrouded with it. I mean, it's all you think about. You're in a vacuum. It's Big Ten football. It's college football on a national scale because you got national media in there that will be there. And there's that part. But actually, for me, it's always started since I was a kid. It started, when I'm up north that first weekend in July, and you go to the grocery store up north, and you see Street and Smith back in the day, the college football preview. You go, or you see Lindy's or Athlon, and when you see that, I know you're just in the start of summer, traditional summer up north, but man, you're thinking, wow, college. You're getting excited about college football, and you're taking it down to the end of the dock, and you're looking at all the previews and everything. And so that's what it is for me. And then it kind of builds up from there. And media days is a big thing. And then when camp opens on August 1st or whatever, then you got content every day, and you're a month away. And that Labor Day weekend to me is magical because it's college football starts Thursday night, and you got it Friday night, you got it Saturday, you got Sunday, no less, and and Monday. You got it every day that Labor Day weekend because the NFL kicks off the following weekend, and that's got a holiday feeling to me, man. It's Merry Christmas to me.
Yeah. I have a big three that kind of coalesce to make it the start of the football season. Right before media days, almost unfailingly, the Wolverine football preview
Yes.
out, and that sort of leads us right into media days, and it's heavy saturation with football. And right after media days is over, all of a sudden these guys are going to fall camp,
Yeah.
and we're starting to meet with coaches and meet with players that they'll trot out through the course of. It depends on the fall, I think Jim Harbaugh is at the point where he'll let these guys come out in the fall a little bit and talk. That was my expectation because of what they've accomplished. But those three things, I mean, boom, 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 they just fall like that, and it's like, okay, boy, it's here. Now
Yeah.
you have that little gap yet. You have August where it is take that deep breath before you're in it every single day. But the fact that fall camp's going on, we're getting reports that are coming out of fall camp and all that. Yeah, I think to me, this is really the time that it all gets rolling.
Yeah, John, real quick, it takes me back to remember the 2015 media days. I think it was in Chicago, and that Harbaugh's first media day, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so before his first season, and he talked about we're going into the submarine. Remember that? And you were, it's like the players were saying, yeah, I told my parents you're not gonna get a text from. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it was like wow. And we really didn't hear much, it's like before that Utah game, I think was the opener on the road. And it's different now. Full access pretty much, during the week, during camp, sprinkle here and there. And it's just a whole different look. And I like it a lot better now.
Yeah. So when we get down to Indianapolis for media days, I know you always have some questions kicking around in your mind, but my first one to you is this: who are the coaches that Tom Crawford will be most interested in checking in with? I obviously no Pat Fitzgerald to pick on or to listen to. So what's Tom Crawford's first move in terms of wanting to hear from a coach?
Well, let's start with Northwestern. I mean, I want to hear what David Braun, the DC and interim head coach, has to say. This takes me back to Lloyd Carr in '95. Remember after Gary Moeller lost his job in the late spring or early summer, whatever that was in Southfield? I want to hear what he has to say, and I'm curious to know how the media we get 15 minutes in that. I call that a general session. Everybody's, but it's the scrum that I like. When they go into the little booths, that's where you get more. Where the questions are. It's more free flow, and it's I like that better. You learn more. But day one, obviously, uh, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I want to hear what Mel Tucker has to say. Right, that's
Yeah.
the way I am. And then Ryan Day, once again, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. I want to hear what Ryan Day has to say, and I get such a kick out of the Ohio State media, and oh my God, it's a mob down there. You know what that's like, 5, 6 deep around there, and just that whole. I think Ryan Day does a really good job in the media scrum. I mean, he does it as well as up front. But
Yeah.
I like to listen to good communicators. Ryan Day is a good communicator. Yeah, I don't I don't like his school. I don't like anything about Ohio State, but I like to hear him talk. And I'm telling you what, and I'm talking about day one right here. Kirk Ferentz. Why? Because he's eloquent and classy, and he answers your question, and I really enjoy that. Day two, um, the new guys, right? I want to hear the new guys. So that'd be Ryan Walters of Purdue and Matt Rule of Nebraska, because they're new. Well, Luke Fickell of Wisconsin. They got 3 newbies, right? And then Harbaugh. I want to hear Harbaugh. We have to wait. Harbaugh's got the anchor leg. He's running the end of the relay, the last coach to present in terms of the general session, the first session,
Right.
on Thursday at 12:15, whatever.
And Jim Harbaugh leads it off, obviously, but in terms of interest from the Michigan contingent,
yeah, that's obvious. Yeah,
there's no question about that. But you named all of my big three in terms of gets beyond Harbaugh, because obviously Mel Tucker and Ryan Day. What I will be interested in, what Michigan fans will be interested in, they each will have to field a question about the University of Michigan football team. And no doubt about it. With Michigan State, you've got the bad blood. You've got the incident last year. You've got Michigan pretty well blowing the Spartans off the field, and the Spartans wanting to get back after what happened there. Ryan Day, 2 in a row. He's had an easy time in the Big Ten, beyond what has happened in the last 2 Michigan games, but those are the games in terms of what Ohio State fans are looking at. So Mel Tucker will have to answer to some of the things that are going on with his team and his program, especially vis-a-vis Michigan. Ryan Day, then you've got, like I said, you can win all the games in the world, but if you're not winning against Michigan, they start to rumble down there in Columbus. And as you mentioned, Kirk Ferentz, unfailingly helpful, and a guy that
he's just great.
He'll answer your questions. He'll be respectful. He'll listen. He doesn't like get this over with. I respect him in terms of how he deals with the media. We'll inevitably have somebody say, well, yeah, but what about this and this? Okay, I'm talking to you about how he interacts.
Yeah.
We have interacted with coaches who weren't that way, believe me. And the other thing with Kirk Ferentz is the fact that, he's got a couple of pretty darn high profile former Wolverines. Could really play a role for his team. And so, want to check out first impressions there. So I think that those three, and you mentioned them all, are high on my list. How about players from opposing teams that they set the list out this year, and guys that Tom Crawford wouldn't mind hearing from and tapping their brain a little bit?
Well, obviously, preoccupation with the rivals. I mean, I want to hear all three Ohio State guys, and all three Michigan State guys. But back to one of those Ohio State guy, Marvin Harrison Jr. I swear, I think this guy is the most talented Big Ten player I can remember in a long, long time. I'm telling you what. Until he got hurt in that Georgia game, geez, if he didn't get hurt, Ohio State would have won the national championship. How scary is that? I mean, I just think he's that good, and I like to hear how he handles himself and with all these accolades. The other, Megan, our producer, will enjoy this as a Nebraska grad. Jeff Sims, the transfer from Georgia Tech, who's now going to be quarterback at Nebraska. When you combine a new quarterback, you got Matt Rule. Matt Rule is a high-profile coach. I mean, Nebraska is going to be an interesting storyline, I think, this year. I'm not saying just because you got you just got a clean slate and everybody's excited all over again, as they often do when there's a coaching change. But I think, I saw him play a little bit for Georgia Tech. He's got some skills. I think that's going to be interesting. Trey Mosley, specifically at Michigan State, because, man, he's the lone wolf out there as wide receiver. Michigan State, man, they don't have a lot of skill guys that wow you, right? I mean, they lost a lot of talent, and they got transfers, and they got some interior linemen both sides, but Trey Mosley is going to have a lot of pressure on him. I'm just curious to know how he's going to handle that. And obviously all three Michigan players. I mean, that's great. I mean, you could just hang out there, but what I do though, just so my strategy on these media scrums, when we get into there's 7 little booths, right? Isn't it 7 little booths, one for each team,
right?
Of each day. There's 7 on Wednesday, 7 on Thursday. So we have the big session with the coach, and then lunch, and then we break into these groups. And I don't know what you do, but what I tend to do is go against the grain. I'll go talk to the third tier, less notable player from Penn State or Maryland, or somebody who doesn't have a lot of people around, and just you can learn from guys I'm really not even familiar with. I like those talks. I got them all to myself in some cases, right? Yeah. Have you ever done that? I mean, that is very. It
was even better in the pre-podium days.
Oh, with the tables,
big round tables.
Oh my God! Oh my! I had Max Bulla, Michigan State, for like 35 minutes all by myself. It was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, it was like you have your own private interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was it's a little bit different now. They've got them behind into mics behind podium.
Yeah.
There's the camera or 2 there, but it's I do the same thing. I won't belabor the point on players, but I think you're dead on in terms of hearing from Michigan State players, Ohio State players, Marvin Harrison, and the aforementioned Cade Stover. I definitely want to hear from, because they are answering the question that Ohio State players have not had to answer in 2 decades. And that question is, you guys could lose a third straight to Michigan come November. Your thoughts about that? How much has that been the focus this winter? All those kind of things. So, I think that they'll know it's coming, and they will be ready for it. And I just think it'll be fascinating to get an idea of their mindset after, like I said, something that hasn't been happening for many, many years. And so now it's time for them to be in the position that the Michigan players have been all too often here in the recent past. Before we go on with the football talk, and there's plenty more to come, we do want to take a moment to shout out to our sponsor on our Tuesday night recruiting show and a longtime partner of the Wolverine in Lewis Jewelers. Simple question, guys. Is your daughter's engagement ring bigger than that of your wife? If the answer is yes, great news. Lewis Jewelers can help. It's stress-free and easy working with one of their non-commissioned expert trusted advisors, finding that perfect diamond. So stop by today, guys, and fix this family issue. Lewis Jewelers, your diamond store, and so much more since 1921. Visit them at their new location, 300 South Maple Road, Ann Arbor, or online at lewisjewelers.com. That's LewisJewelers.com. That's Lewis Jewelers, where Ann Arbor gets engaged. And we engage every week in high-level Michigan football talk. We are going to continue that here. And I have a question that has been sort of floating around in my head. And I, as a Michigan football historian, Jim Harbaugh calls himself that. We know Tom Crawford is also that. So I don't think Jim Harbaugh would weigh in on this at this point because he wants to keep his present backfield happy. But when's the last time that Tom Crawford can remember a Michigan backfield trio that was as solid as J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, and Donovan Edwards?
Okay, so we're talking a quarterback and two running backs, right? Yes. That's a great question, by the way. Well, first of all, let me go on record as saying I think this one coming up at this stage of it's before the season happens. At least from a preseason standpoint,
right?
More than potentially will run away with that award, if you will. Okay,
wow.
I think, yeah, I really do. I think that any of these three could end up in New York. I mean, when you start qualifying this thing, it's like any of them could end up in New York as Heisman candidates. Any of them could go within the first 2 days of the NFL draft, maybe even the first day of the NFL draft. At least the first 2 days. In fact, I have a gentleman's bet with a former Spartan football player who doesn't think Blake Corum is going to go in the first 2 days of the NFL draft. And I think he's crazy. I think Blake Corum is going to go in those first 2 days, the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. I mean, these are 3 quality gets. So they're at the top of the heap. So I'm going to preface this as these backfields, and I got a couple of them in mind as I mull this through. Would be second and third. Okay. Once again, I'm going to go back to my old days, which I probably do too much, but 1977 and 78, both seasons. Ricky Leach at quarterback, Harlan Huckleby at tailback, Russell Davis at fullback. Okay, they're running the I, right? Now, Huckleby ended up with the Packers. Russell Davis played with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Rick Leach was more of a college quarterback. If he had been in a pro system, he might have been an NFL player. But in the NFL is not the gauge, so I don't know why I brought that up. But that one sticks out to me as maybe in second place, or and then speaking of Jim Harbaugh, his 85 backfield had himself at quarterback, pretty good quarterback, right? Yep. Jamie Morris, our mutual friend Jamie Morris at tailback, and then sometimes you had two. You had Wilshire and Gerald Thomas Wilshire was in there in the mix, and Gerald White. And sometimes they ran the wishbone with those. Remember that in the Iowa game?
Absolutely.
So that backfield, Jim Harbaugh, Jamie Morris, Wilshire / Gerald White, that combo would be my other one. Do you have any other candidates?
Well, I mean, we had two that were very, very similar because you were talking about 77, 78. I'm looking at 1976 when you had the aforementioned Rick Leach, you had Harlan Huckleby, but you also had Rob Lytle.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
I mean, this guy could certainly be your lead tailback.
Yeah, what am I thinking? You're right. That's a good well, I mean, they're both good, but I mean.
Oh, yeah. Bo Schembechler himself told me that one of his all-time favorites was Rob Lytle, and it was for the reason that he could be a tremendous tailback, but he unselfishly was willing to go to fullback and help his teams out. And so I know that he had just unlimited admiration for Rob Lytle in that way. So that would be way up there. I had 86, Harbaugh, Morris, Gerald White. Those guys, as you mentioned, were very good. I've got a couple of more, but it always seems like there's, two of the three that are.
Two of the three, okay, yeah, two or three, because you got 92. You had Elvis Gerback, a heck of a quarterback, and Tyrone Wheatley. Remember the Rose Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay, but who's the other running back? I mean, Eddie Davis. I mean, so do you?
Yeah.
So
right.
I mean, Ed Davis was a rotation kind of guy in there.
He was. And then you fast forward 2 years, and you've got Wheatley and Biaka Batuka, two great running backs. Todd Collins, a serviceable quarterback. I don't.
In 93. In 93, you're talking
94.
about?
No, 94.
Oh yeah, Wheatley's last year 94?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And the Biaka Batuka was on his own in 95 and had the big game, the 300 plus against Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And then 2006, I mean, you're not going to find a better combination than Henny and Hart, but your number 3 guy there. Now,
who was that?
I will say he was outstanding offensive contributor in the voting after that year, but it was Oli Olibo.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A very unselfish, tough fullback, but the guy wasn't going to go for 200 yards in Columbus like a Donovan.
Yeah. So what? In essence, what happened was, offenses changed, and when you had the feet, instead of having a blocking back or an I formation, you got a lead back. You had a single setback and a feature back, and you had a guy who would kind of go in and out so it's hard to, like you said, it's hard to use that 3-person criteria, and we really have a hard time doing it this year. Yeah. I mean, when you say, oh yeah, Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, is that what a stellar combination? Are they going to be in there are they going to be in there together? And when they're in there together, is Donovan going to be in the slot as some type of a hybrid thing? I mean, why wouldn't he be? He's a great tailback. We saw that in the Ohio State game last year. This is the most interesting thing of those first few games when Michigan's heavily favored, is how they use those two guys. Yeah. That's more compelling to me than anything. Even the new lights or anything.
There. I mean, Jerome Moore gets to start flipping the switches on his own, and how he uses those two guys in combo will be watched very, very closely. And I think that there's some opportunities to be there. I mean, Jamie Morris and I have talked about that endlessly. I know it's the former great Michigan tailback's opinion that they need to find a way to keep them on the field 75, 80% of the time together. We'll see if that happens. But as a former very successful Michigan tailback, that's Jamie Morris's thing this offseason. Find a way to have those guys out there together.
Yeah.
The big feature of this present season, I mean, it's, if you ask this to Harbaugh, I'm quite convinced he would say, that's secondary. That doesn't matter. Well, we're locked in on this season. But no team and no program in the history of college football has won 1,000 games. At some point in this year, unless it's not the year we expect it to be, that's going to happen. Win number 1,000 will happen this year. My question to you is, which game will it be? If Michigan runs the table into the Maryland game, it will be Maryland. If they drop a game before that, it could be Ohio State.
Okay. You're asking me to answer the question right now.
Which game's when's 1,000 gonna come?
Well, I'm gonna tip my hand a little bit to a comment I'm gonna make later on in our Wolverine Live. So I'll just say this, and I'm flipping on this Penn State game, maybe because Ballas picked Penn State to beat Michigan. Maybe I have credibility issues with Chris Ballas. So I'm going to pick Michigan to beat Penn State. So it's the Maryland game on the road, which is that ultimate sandwich game I keep freaking out about. And it will be a tough game. It'll be the Maryland game on the 18th.
All
Okay.
right. Well,
What if they do stub their toe and the one win number 1,000 against Ohio State in Ann Arbor? Would that you
that
rather
that
have that? Would you rather have that?
would be very
Like
fit
that?
and a really nice round number to get your third win in a row against Ohio State and put number 1,000 up on the board. But I agree with you, Tom Crawford. I think, and I know my friend and colleague Chris Ballas likes the Nittany Lions in that game at Penn State, but I just think that game that Michigan will be as motivated and as ready talent-wise to compete at a high level in that game as Michigan was back on Judgment Day, 1997, when the Wolverines went in and took over Happy Valley, took over State College, took over that stadium. And I'm not predicting 34-8 or anything like that, but I think that Michigan is going to win that game and win it convincingly. So another aspect to this season is if Michigan takes care of business, if Michigan finds itself back in the Big Ten championship game, it's going to have an opponent that will be expected to lose to the East, because since we've gone East and West, West has never won.
Yeah.
This isn't about who you think will win. If you could choose a team from the West to win the West and be the opponent for whoever wins the East, but especially if it's Michigan, who would you pick?
Well, this is too easy, man. Come on, JP. I mean, you remember those arguments we had? Not arguments, but discussions about J.J. McCarthy versus Cade McNamara, right? Let's settle this whole thing, right?
Absolutely. And they weren't so much arguments as Tom Crawford bestowing his infinitely greater wisdom on me.
Okay, whatever.
That's I was dead wrong. Tom Crawford was dead right. I think there were some circumstances that helped that along faster
Sure.
than we might have thought. But hey, it was what it was, J.J. McCarthy. And I agree with you. J.J. McCarthy versus Cade McNamara. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I think that would be a riot to see down in Indianapolis. And, some Michigan fans would say, no, that would mean them having the success and winning the West. And Cade McNamara said some things on his way out and those sorts of things. I don't care about any of that. I wish him the best. He was the guy that did the breakthrough game against Ohio State. He was there on hand. Tip your cap to him. Wish him the best. And I would love to see that showdown in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and it's the last time, if I'm not mistaken, it's West versus East. I mean, it's moving forward on the Big Ten championship game. It's going to be the top two teams, right? So then you're going to get the weird stuff. Michigan and Ohio State may be playing back to back, and that's fine. Whatever it takes. But so this is the last East versus West, and I just think that would be a fitting end to it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that would be a lot of fun. Good way to end the old East versus West, and of course, keep the East streak alive in that not very storied East versus West saga. I mentioned Cade McNamara having some things to say after he left that Michigan fans weren't exactly crazy about. We got that going on this week when Dickinson, switching to basketball, basically said that Kansas felt a little more Midwest friendly than Michigan because the people were just a little bit nicer. Your thoughts on that? And I know you've had a lot to say about Hunter Dickinson the last couple of years. And Tom Crawford, in your mind, where's that coming from?
Well, I mean, I had a lot of things to say to him, and a couple times on with that podcast about especially taunting opponents. Hunter Dickinson, he's when you talk to him, he's a nice kid. I mean, he's a nice kid. He's respectful, but some of the stuff he says on social media, and now when a guy transfers, right, and spouts off against and is disrespectful to the team he left, that he played, for 3 solid years and had a great opportunity. When he badmouth, it's just it's not a good look. It has zero credibility in my mind, because it looks like he's just has some resentful things, because they didn't, for whatever reason, that they parted their ways, and we really don't know. But Hunter is now becoming this incredibly self-absorbed individual. I mean, why would you make a comment? Why would you make a broad brush comment? And you're talking about my generalizing. People in Kansas are friendlier than people. How the hell do you know, dude? I mean, what do you work in the state? I mean, I don't understand. He's been there a few, and then what was it, 3 or 4 weeks ago? He's saying, "Oh, Kansas's practices are way tougher." You're not even into the practice. You're playing summer. You're having summer workouts. So where's the? I mean, I don't understand. That's not apples to apple. The whole thing. He needs to keep quiet. And I'm burned out on him, and he's left.
Yeah.
And God forbid Kansas wins the national championship, because I don't want him. I don't want him to have a good experience. I just think he hasn't handled this. I've lost a lot of respect for him, a ton of respect, since he left. But there's other finer kids on that program that I can gravitate towards.
Let me preface this with a couple of caveats. Number one, I am really glad that nobody put a mic in front of me when I was 21 or 22 years old, because I might have said some dumb things too, especially if I was ticked off and I had a platform and I was in the moment. Also, we are in an era where there is a lot coming at these guys as well in terms of social media. And I'm sure that Hunter Dickinson has heard a few things since he left that coming from people that are much older than 21 or 22, that probably stung a little bit, that he might not have liked so much. All that said, Tom Crawford, I think you're exactly right in that, you need to be in the spotlight that he is. He's a young man that plays to the spotlight, but you have to be able to handle that better.
Well, I mean, how do I word this? How does this come out right when I say this? I got to think this thing through. Okay. I want to go back to the Michigan State game last year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The horrific shooting at Michigan State, University of Michigan. I was so proud of my school, my alma mater, what they did, the tribute and all that stuff. And the players said good stuff, and they wore, Spartan, tough, all the things that Michigan did. Okay. And then Hunter Dickinson, in the latter part of this game, he hits a crucial 3-point shot. Okay. And he goes down in front of the Michigan State bench and looks at the bench and doesn't, I can't even I'm not going to word on this podcast. You know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
It's an obscene gesture. Okay. Why do you do that?
Yeah. And
that disgusted me.
We've
all
said
that was accomplished, and right in front of Izzo.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Tom Izzo about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And Izzo knows I don't like Michigan State as a team. I mean, I like him. I mean, I respect people, but I mean, that bothered me as much as bothered. Why do you, I saw it at the time. Here he goes again. I don't care if you're 21, that's no excuse. That's your third year of a high level competition in NCAA college basketball. That's ridiculous. So it just kind of falls right into that, John.
You can say the same thing about things that he had to say about Wisconsin's program.
Oh my God, absolutely.
And so there is, I get it, big spotlight and people want you to, and he takes the role on as villain sometimes, but you've got to, I mean, he can be a very likable young man. You just need to be that way beyond whoever is cheering for you at the moment. And no, I think he's capable of it. I would like to see make sure that he grows out of that at some point. Otherwise you wind up as Bill Lambier.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's enough about Hunter, right?
Yep, absolutely. We're coming down. Now we're going straight into Tom's take to wrap this thing up.
Okay, one more thing. The only time we're going to talk about Hunter is that they face Michigan in the national championship game. Then we'll talk about Hunter Dickinson.
Okay. I'm ready.
That's gonna happen. For it. My Tom's take. Today I kind of gave you a little sneak preview on it when I talked about that Penn State game. Listen, I had Michigan a few weeks ago. I was kind of teasing my foreshadow what was going to happen, because I do indeed think Michigan's going to win the national championship here in 23 season. They're going to go to Houston and they're going to win a national championship. Okay, they're going to go to the Rose Bowl and then they're going to go and win that semifinal and then win the national championship. So and I'm going to have them doing it 15-0. I really am, and that's crazy as that might seem. And I'm throwing all the jinx elements at it and the whole bit, and I picked Michigan to go undefeated in 76, and that didn't work out. So speaking of 76, so that's my take, that this is going to be an undefeated season. I'm not saying there are not going to be some tight games, and I think there could be 3 or 4 of these white knucklers, believe it or not, and that's what it takes to win to go undefeated. But I think I feel good about the Ohio State game. I feel good about the Penn State game. I remember that sack on that first series against Glenn Steele had against Penn State to set the tone. I think Michigan's defense is going to shine early on in that game. So 15-0, Michigan fans. You heard it here first.
Not much I can do to top that, and I'm not even going to try. Hey, all I'll say is, for them to do that, they've got to take the next step, obviously. And the next step is to get in the ring with a fired up and feeling overlooked TCU squad, or an NFL talent loaded Georgia squad, and get the job done. So Harvard says it's going to happen this year. Watch out for it. We'll see it all unfold. We'll be talking about it every Tuesday night, and lots of times that aren't Tuesday night. But come back and hear us on the Wolverine Live. We'll be discussing what's coming up next with the Big Ten meetings and right down through camp, everything about it. Tom, great to have you with us. Appreciate you being here.
Always a pleasure, JB. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.